Before we start the rating climb, I have a cheating update that I need to share with you, and this is probably not what you are going to expect. So if you remember from the last video in this series, last episode, I played a game against a 990-something player, and I lost. And I asked you guys to comment and let me know what you thought. Did you think they were cheating? Did you think it was a legitimate win? And most people in the comments seem to agree that it was a legitimate win. They said I blundered my rook in time pressure, that's why I lost, and that basically 900s, 1,000 rated players can have good games every once in a while, and they're just wildly inconsistent. I think that makes a lot of sense, and I agree that's probably what happened. However, there were some people that thought maybe this person was doing something suspicious, cooking some rice somewhere, because the game kind of started out pretty poorly, and then there were some moments in the middle where it was like, whoa, all of a sudden they were playing some really nice moves. We may never know, but what's really interesting is, and by the way, this is the game that I'm talking about right here, okay? You can see this loss is the one that we're talking about. But if I scroll further down, look at this. A previous opponent from 2 weeks prior to that the account has been closed for violating fair play policy. So shout out to whoever commented this. Somebody commented and let me know this. Thank you for bringing this to my attention. But I'm going to show you this game. And one thing that's interesting right off the bat here is that this person only had an accuracy of 72, and yet there was some cheating involved. So you can't always just look at the accuracy and say, oh, nope, it wasn't a 99.9, so they're not cheating. Or, oh, accuracy of 70, whatever, that's too low. It's not, you can't just look at that. And I remember this game, actually, there were some moments where I was like, wait, this is kind of suspicious, right? So let me go show you the game before we jump in. I'm going to switch over here to this view. All right, so this was the game from a couple of weeks ago. And the first thing that you'll notice is right in the opening, we had some weird moves, right? H3, G3, Bishop G2, A3, B3, Bishop B2. Okay, that's kind of strange, but also sometimes people just do these weird setups, right? So it's not that suspicious, okay? Move the knight forward, castled, move the rook over, and then a few moves later, move the rook back. There's some weird stuff going on, right? Like, what are you doing here? Even 900s, usually they like try to do something. They try to have some kind of a plan. So that's one thing. Okay. The really weird moment in the game was right here. So I thought I had a fork. Okay, I'm attacking both of the pawns. Looks like I'm going to win a pawn. They defend this one. I take this one. And they played Queen E1, and I remember saying like, whoa, that's a pin. Isn't that interesting? No big deal. I'll just defend. And then the really amazing move, C4. Like, whoa, what is happening? Because my rook is still pinned, and now it's being attacked here, and I have to be really careful, or I might just be losing a rook, right? And I remember thinking like, man, that is either an amazing find, or they just got lucky. But this is just one of those moves that it's just like, wow, like, because you're hanging your rook, but you're not really hanging your rook. And why would you even think about moving this pawn in the situation? And yeah, I mean, it was just, wow. And so I went here trying to save the situation, and I did end up, he kind of misplayed that situation and didn't really play that great, and I ended up winning the game, okay? But it just goes to show that you can't always just look at the accuracy of the game and just, no, they weren't cheating, right? You don't know. There's a lot more going on than what I think we can see sometimes. So anyway, I did play a cheater. I updated. You can see over here the rice statistic is representative of cheating. For those of you who have been asking, rice cooking, it's something that happened a long time ago in the previous rating climbs. Anyway, that's where we stand. I'm going to leave it at 1 loss, 1 rice, 77 wins. We're going to keep going. And one last thing I'll say about spending so much time thinking. I want this to be educational. I want you guys to learn. I want you to hear the thought process. And so if I finish this run with like 20 or 30 losses, but you learn a lot, that's a win for me, rather than like just blitzing through everything, winning, every game, but nobody gets to learn anything. That defeats the purpose, right? Okay, that's a long intro. I don't usually do that. Let's jump into the games here for today. All right, I'm going to go to play here. And here we go, 10 minutes. Let's do this. Let me actually open up my Excel spreadsheet here also of the openings and see what we're going to do. Okay, let's go with E5. We're going to get a pawn out in the center. Knight to f3, and let me just play, you know what, we'll just play knight c6 this game. I'm just going to defend my pawn. Bishop c4. Okay, so we have the option. We could play the two knights defense, and we have to have a response to the fried liver. Or we could go for the Gico piano with bishop c5. I am going to go with the two knights. I do like this. It's a little bit more of an aggressive, kind of spicy opening, you might say. Yes, and he is going for this. So here's the threat. Really, there's two options. You could play the Traxler, where you let him do this and you go on the offensive. Or we could play d5 to shut down the bishop. This is what I'm going to do. I'm going to play d5. And what you want to watch out for here is that we don't take this pawn, okay? Because if we take this pawn, we allow the fried liver attack. He jumps in, we have to take, the queen comes out. It's playable. Like, you can play it and survive, but you're going to be on the defensive, and it's not really what I recommend a lot of people play. I say that, you know, maybe it'll be interesting actually to see a game like that where we play on the defensive. I think I will. Actually, I wasn't planning on doing this, but it might be instructive. So we're going to voluntarily go into the fried liver and see if we can survive. Okay? So we're going to take this, and I'm expecting they're going to sack the knight here. We'll see. They do. All right, here we go. So we have to take it. We're getting forked. I don't think there's really any other moves that make sense here. Queen h4, which loses the knight. Yeah, so we basically have to take this. He's going to go here. Yep. Here you go. We have to go to e6 now, and this is why this is a very dangerous opening to play, because look at our king. We have to go here to defend our knight. Look at our king. But it does get tricky, and it's not losing for black, okay? But you have to be extremely careful. Now, 1, 2, 3, only defended twice. So we need to defend the knight. There's two options. We can go here, or we can go here. From what I remember, and I did do a video on this a long time ago, where it was like, you can play against the fried liver and survive and win as black or something. I believe this one is a little bit better because we create some threats of our own. White has to watch out for this fork, and at the same time we defend, and here we block our bishop, which we don't do. So I kind of like this knight b4. Now, the reason it's tricky is because, like, for example, if white plays something like king d1 to defend, they might be able to play a3 later and then make our knight move easily, whereas on e7 they wouldn't really be able to do that. But we can defend with the pawn as well, and again, it's going to get wild. So let's see how white is going to respond here. I think castling, if I'm not mistaken, might be the best move for white, just ignoring this pawn and getting ready to, like, bring the other rook in and at some point play d4 and try to open up the king. Unfortunately, I don't remember exactly what I was supposed to do to defend here, so we're just going to have to figure it out as we go along. But sometimes you find yourself in these situations, and it's important that you understand how to defend. So we'll see if we can learn something from this situation. Okay, so they decide to take, which I don't think is a good move for them, because one of the most dangerous things about this position for us was that this knight was just pinned. That bishop's just sitting there. We can't move. Our king is tied to defending it. This kind of frees us up a little bit. So I'm going to take that, and now I'm pretty happy, because when you're ahead at material, if you can just trade a bunch of pieces and go into an endgame, that solves all your problems, right? So remember, they had to sacrifice their knight to get into this position. So we are up a piece, an extra bishop essentially. And again, they're trading, which is, you do not want to trade when you're trying to checkmate a king. So I'm going to go ahead and take it, and I'm very happy with how this has turned out for us, actually. So, because now we're even threatening to trade some more. And so they have to waste time moving their queen, or let us trade. That's all they can do, right? Check over here or here doesn't really do anything. We're just going to move our king somewhere. And the bishops are actually going to be doing a nice job of controlling the board. One thing about bishops is they control squares even when they're sitting on their starting squares, as long as they're not blocked, right? Oh, he trades again. Yeah, so this is not a good strategy, and it makes my life super easy. In fact, now I'm happy that my king is here, because we just traded off all the pieces. Now we're in an endgame, right? And he has one pawn for a bishop, essentially, right? So this is great news for us. And, you know, just because they studied an opening, if they don't know how to follow it up, doesn't mean a lot. So, okay. What do we do? Well, let's get the pieces out. Question is, where do you want to get them to? I think bishop c5 looks pretty nice. Bishop, maybe f5 looks pretty nice, but I'll start with bishop c5. Just seems like a good square for the bishop. We also compare that with the rook on f8. maybe create a threat here, which might keep this rook tied down. So bishop c5 seems really good. And again, I'm not at all worried about my king because all the pieces are gone. I'm not going to get checkmated by a couple of pawns and maybe a bishop and a rook. Very unlikely in this situation. b3. Okay, so they want to go here. Seems fine. Then maybe they want to go c4 and make me move. Seems fine. I think bishop f5 looks like a good square for the bishop. Bishop g4, I don't know. I mean, maybe I would want to go here at some point after the rook is involved. So actually, that's not terrible either. I will go bishop g4. I'm kind of just planning ahead on after I go rook f8, then maybe I'll want to chase that rook away so we can grab the pawn on f2. Okay, they do go with the check. And so, I mean, I could even keep going forward, but then maybe my king might become a little bit weak with the two rooks. And so I think I'm just going to probably park it on one of these squares. I think I'm going to choose this one, and here's why. I want to be able to defend this if I need to with my rook. So I'm going to go here. Now you could argue that here's better because then I can attack on the d file, but I'm going to go with the option of defending if I need to. Okay, so he's going to try to push and push. Not a big deal. I'm not going to go back and get forked. I will probably just move my bishop up here. So I'm pretty happy with that. I don't think that bothers me. I think we continue with the plan, right? We have a target here. I think we just continue. So let's just go rook f8. And now I'm threatening to go bishop e2 and actually trap the rook here. So yeah, this is a big deal. Okay, yeah, we already talked about it. I don't want to get forked. You have to watch out for those things. But I do have this move going forward, and it's supported by the pawn. Everything looks good here. Okay, check. And now I think I'll just go up. Pawn has moved. There's no reason for me to avoid this square anymore. It's a light square. This is a dark squared bishop. Seems totally fine. I'll just jump right up there to d5. And so this is our big threat now, bishop to e2, and they don't stop it. They do not stop it. And actually the rook's going to be trapped because if you look carefully, you can't stay there, you can't go there, and if you go here, you walk into another fork. Okay, and so that's what I'll do. And we'll be able to just capture this next move, most likely. Or just take the rook. Okay, so they do move, and then here we go, what I was talking about. That's the fork. All right, so there is the resignation. This was a relatively easy game for us. Let's check the game review here. Because they traded off all the pieces, right? They just made our life super easy. Would have been a much different game had they not traded off those things. Yeah, 95.8. They had the brilliant move, which was the knight takes f7. But we still won, and I guess we played pretty much a perfect game, except one inaccuracy or something. All right, let's go to the next game. All right, we are white. Let me see what's on my list. I'll play e4 this game. Looks like we have Ruy Lopez we haven't played. Vienna Gambit. Scandinavian. Okay. So the best thing is usually just to take the pawn. I do like to play d4 and turn it into a gambit, but we'll for this game, we'll just go ahead and take it so you can see what happens here. Okay. So they're going to play this. Let's just play d4. This is what I play as black, right? And I go with bishop g4 here. We'll see if they're going to play that. I don't think so, but maybe. They're probably going to take this. Yeah, that's kind of what I thought. Okay, so I think what we're going to do is just develop our pieces, starting with the knight. This is always a good one. If you're not sure which piece to develop, you can't really go wrong with the knight to f3. That's usually a lot of strong players will start with that knight. Because sometimes you might want this one to go to d2. Sometimes you might want to follow up with the bishop, but the knight on f3 is just very, very common and a good way to start. Okay. The question that I have is, what happens if I play the move c4 here? Because if I can start chasing these knights around, I think I'm going to be pretty happy. So for example, c4, maybe this goes back. Maybe we play d5, and we're just gaining a lot of space and tempos on the knight. Knight here, I think I would play a3. I don't think black has any good moves there. Yeah, so I'm feeling pretty good about this. I'm going to go ahead and pause my development just for a moment to harass the knights. So notice I'm not making just random pawn moves that don't do anything. I'm making pawn moves that attack something. So this is very different than when you see people who are playing and they're just like, you know, pawn, 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 pawn. Like that's not what we're doing, right? Okay, so they go back, and yeah, I really am feeling this like d5 move might be really powerful because the knight has to move. You can't go here or here. You don't really want to go back. I mean, you could. This is stuck on the edge of the board. That doesn't seem very good. b4, I'm going to chase it away again, and the knights are just getting kicked all over the place. So yeah, I think I will go ahead with d5 here. Oh, and they do just go back. Okay, so we can't chase the knight anymore, but we gained a bunch of space, and they've wasted some time. So now I think we just go back to developing. Question is, which piece and how do we want to do that? General rule is, you know, start with the knights. So I'll just go ahead and continue going there with the knight. This is under attack, but it's defended. I have to be careful if, let's just say bishop g4, if I go bishop e2, maybe they could trade and win a pawn. That's something I have to keep an eye on. I do think I have a tactic in that situation. Queen a4 check. So I don't think I would even have to worry, but those are things you want to think about. E6. Okay. So usually I start with the option of like, what happens if I take? Well, the queen's just going to trade, probably going to have to retreat with my knight or lose castling rights, and the bishop comes out. That looks fantastic for black. I don't want to take that pawn. All right, so what else do we do instead? Continue developing, bishop e2. What if they take me? Probably just recapture. It's defended well enough. It is an isolated pawn at that moment, but I think that's probably fine. The other thing, though, is if they take here, maybe I'm going to want the bishop to go to b5 or e3. I don't know. So maybe I should start with this bishop. We could go bishop g5, bishop f4, bishop e3. Lots of ways that we can play this. The nice thing about bishop e2 is that I get ready to castle early. Yeah, it's hard to say. Kind of actually leaning towards bishop f4 here. I don't know why. I just feel like that's a nice square for my bishop. I'm going to do it. Because I guess what I'm thinking is after this trade happens, I might want to go bishop b5 check and castle really quickly, and then slide the rook over and try to take advantage of the fact that black's king might be stuck in the center. So that's what I'm leaning towards. Okay, they go bishop d6 instead. All right. Probably just trading makes sense, I think. I could also play queen d2, just defending and allowing the queen to come into the game. That seems reasonable as well. Yeah, would I rather that or just trade? Because if I trade, it does allow black's queen to kind of come into the game. Maybe I'll just let them be the one that trades and bring my queen into the game. Let's just do that. You want to think about it in terms of like, how can I get the most pieces activated into the game as fast as possible, right? And by trading, I'm kind of activating black's piece. Going here, if they take me, they're activating my piece. So that's the idea. Oh, you know what? I just realized something. There is the idea that they might just be able to win a pawn here, which I kind of missed, to be totally honest with you. Now, yeah, we're committed at this point. We have to take the piece back. I'm not totally convinced they can get away with this. Looks like there might be a tactic, potentially. Okay, they don't even go for it. I was going to say they might run into some problems with a pin here, or maybe even a fork. It was going to get a little bit interesting. I think they made a smart decision just castling, just getting away from that, not even worrying about that. Okay, but I am thinking maybe I should play something like rook d1 to add some support here. I wonder how crazy it is to castle, because I'm imagining that these pawns might get traded at some point very soon, right? And then there's going to be an e-file. Yes, I could block with the bishop, but if there's a rook pinning me, then this becomes a threat. I don't know if I like the idea of being in a pin like that. So castling solves that problem. Now, the drawback of castling is the c-pawn is already pushed forward. My king is not as safe as maybe it normally would be if the pawn is back here. That being said, I really like the fact that I get away from the e-file and I immediately put the pressure on the black queen here. So I think I'm going to do it. There's no dark squared bishop, but I have to worry about any kind of pins here. Those have already been traded. Yeah, so I will go ahead and castle queenside. Okay, so now they take. So Normally, I'm going to just take with the knight, and the reason is I don't want to create an isolated pawn if I don't have to. So take with the knight, takes with the rook. Seems totally fine. I don't see any reason to not do that. I mean, it is pinned. Maybe there's some other moves here, but no, I think we could just safely take that. Okay, and then we'll take with the rook. Like I said, creating an isolated pawn for no reason just becomes a target. This also comes with a tempo on the queen, so that seems like a great move. And one thing you'll notice is that black is kind of struggling to develop, right? There's a lot of pieces that are still on the back rank, and I have more pieces that are activated. Okay, so this is a pin. Don't have to worry about the knight moving at the moment. I think we go bishop d3 and just create a threat over here on h7. Doesn't look that easy for black to deal with. Also lets my rook into the game. Yeah, it looks like an amazing move. So let's go bishop d3. Remember, when you're thinking about attacking on the king side, if the knight on f6 is gone, which it is, that's a clue that it might be a good time to attack over here. Okay, and so that's a great defensive piece for black. They don't have it right now. They can't go there because it's pinned. All right, so they're attacking the rook. So, of course, I could move my rook. That's one thing to consider. But even before we consider that, what happens if I sacrifice and go for checkmate? I need to answer this question, right? So let's just say I take. They take me. I have a couple of options. Rook could swing over, which looks pretty nice. Or the knight could jump to g5, which also looks pretty nice. Let's say the knight goes. I think the knight might be even better. And the reason why is I want to block the queen from this h4 square so that I can move my queen over there. Okay? So takes, check. Let's say the king goes back for now. Queen h4. We're threatening checkmate. You can't go knight f6 unless you're willing to just lose your queen. You could bring your rook over, but then I go check. He goes here. I go check. He goes here. I bring this rook over. Check. It just looks like there's no way in the world black's going to be able to survive that. Okay? So take check. What if the king comes out? What if the king comes out to g6? That doesn't look good either because there's going to be queen f5 check. You have to move. Checkmate. Okay? So I'm seeing lots of checkmates. And so I definitely think the best move here is probably just to go ahead and take. And by the way, if I move the rook over here, it allows the knight to come, right? Because right now the knight is kind of eliminated. So I don't really want to mess with that. So I think we analyzed it enough. Let's go ahead and go for the checkmate here. This is called the Greek gift sacrifice. Very common idea. You see it over and over when you have a bishop on d3, your knight is ready to jump in and the queen is available to help you, and there's no knight sitting on f6. You have to consider that. You just have to consider it. Okay. Let's just verify knight g5. Yeah, it looks like the best move. Because this one, he just goes back, and I don't have a way to get my queen over to threaten checkmate because this guy's here. That's the problem. That is why I think knight g5 is, is the way to go. So yeah, a king g8, queen h4. It looks like it's all over unless I'm missing something. I mean, black's probably going to have to sacrifice the queen to survive is what I'm thinking. Let's see. Yeah, there's just no way to stop this unless you're going to go here and try to run, but that looked terrible as well. So we'll go ahead with queen h4. And notice, I don't care about this because I'm creating a more powerful threat, right? Yeah, he does decide to sacrifice his queen, which I think kind of have to do because you need a piece here. Now, do I take the queen? I guess I need to take the queen. I was trying to see if there's a way I could bring my rook to sacrifice here and still checkmate, but I can't do it, unfortunately. So go ahead and take the queen. And so now we have the extra material. Doesn't look like we have an immediate checkmate. Still have to play the game. I don't want to get too low on time, so let me go ahead and go here. Try to trade off some pieces. Trading when you're ahead material usually is good, so I think this makes a lot of sense. Also, he had a rook that was totally controlling the file, and now I'm countering that. So that's always a good thing to do as well. Okay, he does take. I will take back. There's bishop g4, but I think we'll just play f3, and he goes bishop f5. Okay, so the rook probably wants to come over. Let me see. Where can my king go? I can probably just tuck it on C1 or even maybe E1 or something. Yeah, I think that's fine. How do we proceed? We can't really do anything here, so I think the queen has to move. Let me just go to, how about F4? Just to attack the bishop and maybe try to sneak over here and start hunting some pawns. Also, there's this, actually. Yeah, that's a pretty nice move, I think. Okay. So I want to put my king where it's going to be in the least amount of danger from these pieces. I think C1 is the best. It's kind of away from the knight. The rook can't really do anything at the moment. I guess if the bishop comes here, but I could always block it off. I think that's totally fine. Okay. So yeah, queen C7. There is going to be rook D7 though. No, then it's checkmate. So you can't do that. Yeah, so I'm just going to try to pick off the pawns. Exactly what I'm going to do. Let's go here. There's back rank made problems because my knight is controlling this. Okay. So you can't move rook D7. So he's going to probably go rook E8. Yep. And now I think we just take pawns. Yes, he can come in and check me, but I'm just going to go here. I could even actually prevent that, but then there might be a knight check. Actually, I think I will prevent that. I don't really like the look of... Oh, no, actually, never mind. Never mind. I'm going to take this. The reason I'm going to take this is because if he goes to try to invade here, he's going to have the back rank mate problems again. So he has to go back. That's why I decided to do that. He has to go back because I'm threatening checkmate here, basically. Actually, he can block. Okay, that's fair. That's fair. Well, I'm going to make him do it anyway, just to get the rook out of here. Has to go back, and now I'll take another pawn. So we're down to a minute, but our position is very nice, so I think we shouldn't have too much trouble here. Let me do it again. How about check? And I'm just going to keep taking all the pawns. Okay. Very good. Watching out for forks and stuff from the knight and the bishop, but I think we're okay. We've got that square controlled. Now I'm ready to kind of like start doing something like this. I think this is probably the simplest thing. Just push these pawns down the board. And I don't know how black's going to stop that. Bishop e4. I would probably actually... Okay, he just blunders the rook, so that sort of makes our life easy. And let's push the pawns. Let's watch out for forks. There's no fork. Actually, there is a fork. Let me go play with f3. If I played c5, I was going to lose my pawn to a fork, so I'm going to stop that. And now I think we can start pushing this guy. Or maybe even this one is even better because it's further away, actually. I could also, like, attack the king, but it seems like the simplest and easiest thing is just going to be to get another queen. So I think that's what I'll do. Okay, they just resigned. Interesting. All right. Game review. We had one mistake there. Let's see what it was. We had a brilliant move. All right, let's check the brilliant move and check the mistake. How about that? Okay, brilliant move was bishop takes h7 check. Very good. And the mistake. Oh, the mistake was knight takes d5. Interesting. Let's see this one. So c5. You wanted me to chase the knight somewhere. Let's just say, oh, because the knight doesn't really have any good squares. You can't go here because the bishop. You can't go there. If you have to go here, now it's even better for me because you've sort of blocked in all of black's pieces. Interesting. Okay. Yeah. Nice move there. I didn't really consider that. I sort of thought about it, but then I was like, why? What does it accomplish? But I didn't really think far enough about that. All right, let's go to the next game. Here we go. We are white. Let me play e4 again. A couple of new openings that you guys have requested. Evans Gambit, Danish Gambit. Yeah, we're not even getting a chance to play some of these. I mean, it's the Caro-Kann. What can I even do against this? What can I even do? There's some... Let's play the two knights just to mix it up a little bit. I used to play this before I... Oh, wow. He's not even playing. Okay. He's just going to, like, put his knight here, I guess. So we could take it. Here's the thing. If we take that, we mess up the pawn structure. But then we lose the bishop pair. We lose one of our good attacking bishops. And I don't... You even open up the b file. Like, I don't even know actually how good that is. I don't think it's really great. So what I'm going to do instead is just get 2 pawns in the center. I'm going to let him go to c7 if he wants. That's fine. Bishops are actually really, really valuable. So a lot of times you need a little bit more than just doubled pawns to make it worth trading for them, right? Let's just get 2 knights out, 2 pawns in the center. You can't go wrong starting a game like this. You can't go wrong. So some interesting moves here by our opponents. Kind of hard to tell what they're doing. Always ask myself the question, what happens if I push forward? Looks like the knight would go to d5 maybe. Is that a good trade for me or a bad trade for me? It's probably decent. I don't know how amazing it is. So I think what I will do instead is just develop my bishop. And I'm going to g5 because if they play h6, I'm actually kind of happy because this is then can become a weakness for me. They didn't do it. So I'll just go queen d2. I'm going to try to create the battery. This is something I do very often against the King's Indian or Fian Kettled Bishop setups, right? Just try to go in there and trade. Okay, they do this. And now what you're going to notice is when I go back, and I'm not going to go to e3, by the way. Why do you think I'm not going to go to e3? Because I don't want the knight to jump to g4 and just trade off my bishop. I'm going to go to f4. Now, there's still knight h5, but then I could just drop back to e3 at that point, and there's no knight to take my bishop. I want to keep this bishop because the queen and the bishop here is now putting pressure here where black can't castle. Because if they castle, they just lose this pawn. So I want to try to keep that battery if possible. Now, if they really want to, they could play something like g5, but then they create other weaknesses and have totally kind of changed their setup. Okay, so d6. Again, I want to ask myself, what if is it even better now? Let's see, takes. I don't want to take this way and allow the queen trade. I'd probably jump in with my knight. Looks decent. We still could trade here. Is it any better than before? Yeah, maybe, but I don't really know. Bishop c4 looks okay. h3 is not like out of the question because it does kind of limit this natural developing square. So this is where I might make an exception and actually play h3. I think I will. I will. Normally, I don't play moves like this when I'm trying to develop pieces, but when you're playing in kind of a slower positional game, which this seems to be, it's more important that you get your pieces on nice squares. All right, let's just make sure there's no tactic, first of all. Check. It's a fork. If the bishop blocked, I would be able to grab the knight, which means the king either has to move or the knight has to go back to d7. Okay. Seems probably okay for black. But what about this move d5? So there's a principle, always attack the base of a pawn chain. Now, this isn't a very long pawn chain, but still, this is the base. If I attack that, let's just say black takes, then I could jump in here with the check. Now, if the knight has to go back, I jump in, or the king has to move. That's awkward for black. So I'm liking the look of that. And you kind of have to do something, because otherwise I'm just going to take you and again take there. So I think this looks good. Only question is what happens on b4? What do I do? Guess I have to move the knight. But then black can take. Ah, yeah, so maybe it's not as good. Maybe I do need to stop this b4 move. So again, I'm going to play a move that I don't normally play, but I'm going to play a3 because it is important in a positional game like this that I'm careful about where my pieces end up going. Like, for example, if this knight has to get forced away to some awkward square like on the side of the board, that might not be what I want to do, right? Queen a5. Okay, interesting move. He might still want to play b4, which kind of a problem because I can't take. Wow. All right. So what do we do about this? Well, let's think about this. I would love to castle, so I'm really considering getting the bishop to one of these squares. We just have to have a response to this move. Looks like I would need to move my knight. We'll say I move my knight. Oh, but then this is going to be hanging, so maybe we have to go bishop d3 to defend this pawn. Yes. So let's go bishop d3 to defend here. I don't think I'm missing anything else. I mean, e5, I don't know why. I think I need to defend this. So I think I'm going to go bishop d3. Let him push, and I'll just retreat. I'll just retreat. Not a big deal. If he takes, you know, he can't take because the queen. Yeah, I think that's fine. Let's go bishop d3. Kind of a good move by black, actually, though. This is a little bit annoying, but I'm just going to move my knight and kind of counterpin his pawn there. Okay, he does go for b4, and so I think I'm going to go here. Actually, I could also go here, now that I'm looking at it. Maybe that's better, because then I don't disconnect my rooks after I castle. Yeah, I think I might do that. So we're just going to retreat. Notice we did plan ahead, so we're okay here. We're not losing a pawn. That's important. Let me go back here. And notice he can't take because he loses his queen. So I'm just going to wait till I castle. Once my rook is then defended, then I will be threatening to take because there's no more pin here where I lose a rook. Okay? So I think we're in a nice position now. Look, we've got control of the center. All our pieces are starting to look pretty good, like pretty well placed. Okay, he castles. Interesting. So normally, you know, I said I would be taking here. Do you guys see the problem with that in this situation? That's right. Then it allows the queen to be lined up on my king. He's going to take here with check, and I'm probably in trouble. Okay, so we don't want to do that. I think we definitely have to castle. I think we definitely have to castle to deal with the pin, and now we are threatening to take here and unleash our rook. So we'll see how black is going to respond to that. So I don't think they've really made a big mistake yet. They've played some weird... Oh, never mind. The timing of me saying that could not have been better. I was just about to say they haven't really made a big mistake yet, and now they blunder the queen to the pin. Okay, well, what I was going to say was they haven't really made a big mistake yet, but I'm going to keep waiting because it'll probably happen at some point, and there you go. There you go. Okay, they're not going to resign. Game is going to go on. That's also blundering another piece, so I'm probably going to ignore this and just take the piece before they move it away. Okay, we'll just grab that. Okay. They take a pawn. We could take a pawn here. We could take a pawn here. This one's kind of more annoying because, you know, maybe you have to worry about this. So I think I'll just take it with the rook. Let's just make sure the knight can't jump anywhere that's going to cause me problems. I don't think so. We'll just take the pawn. G5. Okay, so we probably need to save the bishop. Bishop E5, trying to trade looks good. If they block, I'll just go back. And I'm happy that their pawn is now blocking their bishop. So, no problem at all here. And it might look like I'm wasting a move, but I'm actually intentionally trying to get them to move their pawn forward. They don't do it. Let me take with my knight just to bring it forward. Start attacking stuff. And we do have a threat right here. It's probably going to be the next thing that I'm going to take. Also bring this rook over, or maybe play... Oh, maybe f4 is a good move, actually. f4 to bust open the king. Okay, I think I will save my knight at this point. I was thinking about sacrificing it. But I think I will keep it. We'll just take the pawn. Threaten here. Okay. Wow. So hopefully you guys can spot the move here. What is it? That's correct. That's a fork. We will just take that. Okay, there's the resignation. Let's see how we did here. Game review. Hey, that's 80 wins, 1 loss. Nice. All right, so pretty well played, and that's what I was saying. Like, just wait for those mistakes. That's usually going to be how you're going to win at the 900, 1000 level. Every now and then, you will get an opponent who doesn't really make those big mistakes, though, and that does happen from time to time. Next game. All right, what do we have? Let's go e4 again. We'll try to play either the Evans Gambit or the Danish Gambit, maybe. See if we get an opportunity here. c5. Okay. So this is the Sicilian. We can't really... There is some gambits, but I don't really know them too well. Let's just play, like, knight f3. This is the main move. Yeah, knight c6. I usually like to play bishop to b5. It's kind of... It's in one sense, it's relatively straightforward. You just bring the bishop out, you kind of develop quickly, and you castle. In another sense, there are some interesting things. We'll do it. We'll play it again. I was thinking about playing d4, but we'll just do this. There are some tricky lines that black could play, but at this level, I was going to say, this is one of them, actually. This is one of the tricky lines. I was going to say, usually you probably won't see them, but they do play it. You have to be careful here because your bishop can... Usually the idea is that the bishop's going to trade for the knight at some point. But it could become a target here. So I'm going to go back. And it was being attacked. That's why I'm just retreating it so it doesn't get captured. This is defended, so if they want to trade here, okay. If I go here, black's probably going to take me with check and play c4 and trap my bishop. That would be bad. Bad, bad, bad. So the only move here, as far as maybe c3. No, c3 is not a move. Same thing. Yeah. The only move here is you have to take the knight. You have to take the knight. And now black gets to choose which piece do they want to take. Okay, he does take the bishop, but the pawn structure is messed up. So that's what I get in return. And I think I will just go back here. Could also go to e2. I don't know if that's better. No, I'm going to just go to f3. I'm going to go back to f3. Okay, stopping me from castling. That's very annoying. So I think I'm going to play d3 to prevent that, because I really would like to castle. And if I play d4, I can't easily get rid of this bishop. So let's go ahead and play d3. Get the king to safety over here. Just let out my bishop. And c4. Interesting move. All right. I don't want to take that. And again, we'll put the bishop here. So I think we just castle. Let him take if he wants. And then I recapture. Not a big deal. Let's castle. We don't want our king getting stuck in the center. So we need to make sure that we prioritize getting it to safety. Yep, let's just recapture. Nothing really to think about there. And we are hitting this pawn. I don't know if I'll take it right now because the bishop might take me. Okay, he defends it. So what's a nice move that I can play here, guys? Well, knight c3 is a nice move because I want to develop my pieces anyway. And I'm able to do it with a fork and an attack on this undefended bishop. So that just seems great. Okay, that's a smart move. He wants me to take, and then he's going to recapture and fix his pawn structure. But what I will do instead, take here. That's why those pawns are weak. Okay, and he trades, which I'm pretty happy about. Getting rid of that bishop. And now I'm just up a clear pawn. And this guy's also a target. Okay, so we survived a little trickiness with the knight coming in and the pawns pushing forward. You do have to be careful because I think a lot of people would have dropped back and ended up getting their bishop trapped. But we avoided it, so here we go. Okay, g6. So the first move that jumps into my mind is queen d4, and I'm like, ooh, let's go for the rook. Now, there might be knight f6, and then the question is, what about something like d4? Chase the knight away. Let's just say it goes h5. No, it would get trapped. Probably has to go back. Then I could play e6, hitting it again, and now there's a pawn. That looks incredible. So maybe black would have to play f6. That's an ugly move. Stops the knight. The bishop's not going to have anywhere. Definitely looks like the best move. You have to be careful when you play g6. You need to make sure that you can get your bishop onto that diagonal before something like this happens. Otherwise, you might just get into big trouble. So, yeah, I mean, this is no good for black. f6 is just really awkward. It's just not a good situation. Okay, so he goes for f6. And I think, I mean, I could consider even pushing or just developing. Bishop f4 walks into a fork, but it's not a bad fork. I would just take it, jack, and win a rook. So bishop f4 is definitely playable. Is it better than e5 right away? That's what I'm not sure about. Well, I mean, let's just analyze. Takes, takes, or takes. The knight jumps out. Rook e1. Yeah, I think I do want more pieces involved. Bishop f4, bishop g7, e5 takes. Yeah, we'll just go here. I mean, I don't know. I'm kind of baiting him to fork me, but it's not a good fork. I think he's going to play bishop g7. And then what am I going to do? I think the move is probably e5, just to open up the e file here so we can get to the king. Also, I do want to avoid the fork at that point, because the only reason it's a bad fork right now is because I have a follow-up, you know, I'm going to win a rook. But if that's not going to happen because there's a bishop on g7, then I don't want to allow the fork. So yeah, I think on bishop g7, I will go e5. Oh, he plays d6. Okay. He really wants to go here and fork me. All right. Okay, there's one move, queen d5, and it gets away from the fork. It also kind of starts to threaten some of these light squares, which are now weak because of these last two moves. So that seems like it makes some logical sense. Maybe I could follow up by bringing my knight in. That looks very, very good. E5 right away, he would take this way, and I guess I would have to trade queens. Yeah, that doesn't seem very good. So I think we do go queen d5. Is there any other move? No. I go queen d5. Basically just trying to take advantage of the weaknesses that are created in the position. So knight d4, knight c6, knight e6, and avoid the fork at the same time. Okay. Nothing is defending that pawn. So I could just take it. Could also go check here. And you can't block with the queen because you lose a rook. So you would have to move your king. I guess king f7 and somehow black is actually surviving. Yeah. Okay, so we got to take the pawn. We'll take it here. Okay. And I could trade queens because if you count up the material, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 pawns against 5. So I'm up 2 pawns. That's a relatively easy win. That being said, my king is safe, his king is not. So I think I should probably leave the queens on the board and try to take advantage of that. That's going to be the most powerful thing that I could do. So queen d5 is what I'm thinking, or queen c4. Apologize. This immediately attacks the rook. This kind of just keeps an eye. Oh, it actually threatens here. Also threatens here. I'm going to go here because he can't easily move his rook or he loses this, but I am threatening to win the rook in a different way. Not as easy for him to figure out how to stop. And so I like this square. I mean, queen d5, rook c8, and then just bringing my other rook over also looks really amazing. Because once I trade those off, he has no rook to defend this area of the board, and I have another rook coming in. So maybe that was actually better. I'm not totally sure. But you can see because his knight is jammed up, the bishop has no scope. You know, that f6 move was so bad, right? Which is why g6 was played too early because of the queen d4, and it all kind of happened because of that. Okay, he goes g5, which doesn't really deal with the threat. So I think I'm going to take that. Yeah, I think I'm just going to go for, I mean, a rook is better than a bishop, right? So let's do that. Okay, he does resign. All right. Game review. All right, 95. Yeah, pretty nice game there. Kind of thought that one was pretty good. All right, new game. Go here. Okay, we are black. Do I have anything on my list here? Let me go with e5. Let me defend the pawn. Bishop c4 again. Okay, should we do... kind of want to do another fried liver just to see if they don't trade all the pieces, what would happen. I feel like that might be interesting for you guys to see. Let's do it. Let's do it. Let's see if we let him play the fried liver. Oh no, he goes for this. So I think this is a bit of a mistake, and the reason it's a mistake, well, see if you guys can figure out why it's a mistake. All right, the reason is because we take here, and there's this idea in these e4, e5 openings where you can, bam, you fork the pieces. You give up the piece to fork the pieces, so it actually becomes a big trade, but in doing so, you kind of clear away one of the center pawns, you free up your pieces, and it's just good for black. I don't think that's why you see strong players play the order of these moves like this, because it walks into this fork. It's not like losing for white, but it's just like, yeah, you just kind of lost your advantage, basically. Okay, and you always have to take the piece after they move one back, otherwise you're just going to be down a piece, so we'll take it. And you could see the difference in the position already, right? We are the one who has the pawns in the center. The knight is now, look at this. I mean, you can't even move the knight anywhere forward, right? Bad situation. So he goes back. So, you know, bishop, we can't go there. We could go to f5, seems decent. e6 looks awkward. We get the tripled pawns. We don't want to do that, I don't think. Bishop d7 seems too passive. So that's one move. Another move is this bishop to c5, which I like. I don't know, hitting that weak pawn right away. I can castle next move if I need to. I think that just makes the most sense. So let's go there. We'll probably save this for later. Maybe on something like 92, we might actually change our plan and go bishop g4. Pin the knight. Maybe that's better. Queen e2. Interesting move. He's attacking the pawn. He might also be trying to set up some tactics. So remember, whenever there's a bishop attacking this pawn, you always want to be looking for tricks like this. Tricks are not just for kids when you're playing chess, okay? So, yeah, I think we want a castle just to avoid that and sack this pawn. Is there a way to defend? Bishop f5 takes here, check. I'm going to be losing my bishop. No, I don't want to let that happen for sure. Oh, you know what? There is knight to d4. Knight to d4 is interesting because now if you try it, I have the move knight e6 to defend. That's pretty good. So what's he going to do? He's probably going to take the pawn. Bishop f5, but then we lose another pawn. Yeah, I think I still want a castle and just give back this pawn here. Because remember, I'm up a pawn at this moment. So it's not a big deal if I give one back to get my king to safety. I think that's the smart way to do this. Queen d4 just looks bad. At c3 is probably going to chase me around. Yeah, let's just castle. You got to focus on quick development and king safety in these aggressive kind of wide open games. Okay, very different from some of the other positions that we've had where I was like taking time to play these random pawn moves. Here, it's all about speed. How quickly can you develop your pieces, get your king to safety, that kind of thing. Okay, so do we have a tactic? That's always the thing you want to check. Takes, check, check, check. No, it doesn't look very good. Knight jumps in, seems reasonable because then we can go bishop f5. This is no longer a threat because now we have the rook involved, so we pin it. Yeah, I kind of like knight to d5 here. Maybe even getting rid of that annoying bishop. And then we have the bishop pair, which would be pretty nice. Let's do it. That's the way to go. The light squared bishop, especially in these e4, e5 openings, is one of the good attacking pieces. So if you trade it for a knight, usually a good sign. Same thing for me. This is one of my good attacking pieces. It's the king is on that color, right? The black king is on the light squares. This bishop is ready to attack. The white king is on the dark squares. The bishop's ready to attack. And even when you castle, your king stays on the same color square, right? Either way. So because of that, that's one reason why this bishop is so good. You have to basically waste a move moving your king off of that color to avoid these bishops. That makes sense. Okay, and so because of that, like I said, I think I want to take. I do want to just pause and consider bishop f5 here, because where does the queen go? Can't take, you get pinned. You probably, actually, yeah, where does the queen go? Maybe you have to take this. It's kind of trapped. I mean, here, I guess you could, no, then you lose the, yeah. You go here, you walk into a tactic. Look at that. Can't go there. So I think you actually do have, oh, you could go to d5. But then I have a fork, which lures, yeah. Okay. So I think on bishop f, I think this is actually a more powerful move here. Bishop f5, you got to take here. And then what do I play? What do I play? Rook b8, queen has to go to a6. Really seems like this is the best move. I'm going to play it and then figure out what to do next after he takes the pawn. But it definitely seems like I'm going on the offensive. There's got to be some nice follow-ups here. I just have to see if I can find what they are. I think rook b8 looks pretty solid, forcing the queen over here, and then we could even take here and just totally bust up the king side so he doesn't have a safe place to castle. That looks really good. We could also just grab this, but that's not as good, I don't think. Yeah, I'm liking this one, just messing up the king side. It just seems more valuable than the bishop at this moment. I think white's only move is queen b7. Everything else falls to a tactic. Just as a recap, queen h4. We throw in the in-between move, knight takes f3, then we take the queen for free. Okay, so take the queen. Queen here walks into check, and when he takes my knight, my bishop is now lined up with the queen. You can't go there, I just take it. You can't go there, I just take it. You can't take this, I take it. You can't go here or here, take it. Here, falls for this tactic. Okay, he does do this. All right. So there's actually two ways I could do it, and we'll see if we can figure out which one's better. It might not matter, actually. It might get the same position. I take first, then there's a fork. Or I go for the fork first, he takes me, and I take the queen. I don't actually think I'm going to do that way, because then he has the option of getting two pieces for the queen, which is something in return. I don't want him to even have that, so I'm going to trade first. And then I'm just getting a free rook. It's just a free rook, which is a really big deal. So verify, there's no tricks. Nope, free rook. Yeah, I think queen b7 was the only move there. Okay, so he's trying to trap the knight, but I'm just going to trade it. It's in the corner. It's stuck. That's a great trade. I don't even need to think about this for longer than 2 seconds. We'll just go ahead and take it. All right, so we're up a rook. What do you do in a game when you're up a rook? Well, probably the same thing that you normally do. Activate your pieces and be on the lookout for trading. Like, for example, this actually makes sense because I'm ahead. That being said, I want to value getting my rooks involved first. So I'm going to go here. Actually, I'm going to go here. I'll defend the pawn. I was thinking about sacrificing it, but I'm like, it is a center pawn. Why not just defend it? Then I'll bring this rook probably to d8. Okay, so he's attacking. And so now maybe I will go here to defend my pawn and also threaten to potentially trade some more pieces, go into the endgame even further. Okay, so he gets out of the pin, and yeah, I am going to go ahead and trade. I mean, I don't have to. I could also play f6, which probably what Stockfish would do, actually. Or would Stockfish just take the pawn? I just feel like Stockfish would play f6. Can we do a test? I'm going to play f6, and I want to check this moment in the game. I want to see, like, is this what Stockfish would do? I just have a feeling. I don't know. I just have a feeling this is what Stockfish would play. Let's see if I'm right. Let's see if I'm right or if it would have just taken the pawn. Because it's so awkward for this knight. Like, this knight is, like, nowhere good to go now. Shut it down. Bam. This rook can come over here. Check. It doesn't really do a whole lot, but I'm going to keep an eye on it. This looks good now to get rid of the pawn, attack the rook. Okay, he defends that. Now he walks into a pin, so now I think e4 just wins material. It just wins material. Because you can't move the knight unless you lose the rook. Yeah, if you do this, I just... okay, hold on. So he wants to... I take, he's going to trade first. Okay, watch this, guys. Watch this. So here's the problem. If I take, he trades, and then he takes me. Actually, that's not a problem. I'm going to take here and get a queen. That would work. But what I was going to say is bishop h5, he's going to play g4, try and do the same thing. But then I take here, and when he tries to trade, my bishop actually can go back, which is kind of a nice idea to keep in mind, right? But I would rather just get a queen. So we're going to do it this way because a queen is better, obviously. But it's nice to, you know, point out those options. All right, there's the resignation, and check the game review. I think we did pretty well that time. 96.6. All right, I have to go check the moment in the game. Like I said, did Stockfish say F6 at that moment? Okay, what is the best move right here? According to Stockfish, it's not F6. Too bad. All right. Best move is E4. Chasing the knight to do what? Then go bishop F5. And if the king gets away, then F6. Okay. I didn't quite have it. Sorry. But it's still a good move. The advantage mostly stays about the same. So it's still a good move. All right, guys. I hope you learned something from this series. We're at 1050. And I will see you next time. Make sure leave a comment with the opening you'd like to see. I have a spreadsheet over here. I'm trying to play them. We haven't gotten a ton of opportunity in some of the games, as you've noticed. But if you have something you want to see, leave a comment. I'll do my best to squeeze it in if we can. All right. See you next time. Stay sharp. Play smart. Take care.